Welcome, everybody, to another Wine and Comics pairing show. As always, I am Dave,
and I am Dallas.
Cheers, everybody. And today we have a special guest star, Steve Urena. Actually, when he comes on, he's going to have to tell me if I said that right.
Yeah, I know, right?
Steve Urena, and he is the creator of Slowpokes, the greatest sloth horror comic you have never read. Or if you have read it, you know what the fuck I'm talking about, and you need to read it. There are 2 issues of Slowpokes out. There will be more in the future. We're going to talk about that. He has also done Zombie Date Night, and then a Christmas comic, which I was just talking to Steve before we started recording, and he's going to have to tell us the story of the title of that one, as well as the story behind it. But he currently has Foulmouth, the superhero that gets her powers by cursing. And this is, I do think, as much as I love Slowpokes, as much as I've loved all of Steve's work, I think this takes the cake. This is my favorite at this point. But let me see Steve's face when I say that, and let's bring him on. Welcome, Steve. Welcome to the Wine and Comics Parent Show, buddy.
What's up? What's up, guys? Hey, Dallas. Hey, Dave. I'm going to join us. I didn't have any wine on me, but I do have Mezcal, so I'm going to have
very nice.
Oh, boom, boom.
Urena. Is that pronunciation correct?
Urena is correct. That is right.
All right.
We did it. I do want to say, I'm sure you might have heard this even though you were taking it off screen. But yeah, Foulmouth, I think it's your best work yet.
Thank you so much. So you guys are actually the first people to read it. So, I just wanted to give you that little news bit. I haven't shown anybody yet. You guys are the first to read it. I thought you guys would be a great one to talk to, since you guys have done so much good for indie comics in the short time that you're doing this. I thought that I wanted to see how you paired it. And if it was terrible, I would be like, well, I get it. That's fine. I mean, that'd be kind of...
You never know. I mean, tastes, palates are different between people.
I would love that too, though. Like during an interview segment, they're like, this is the worst comic ever. Like, why are you doing this? Why did you get into comics? You're ruining it. But I appreciate that. That makes me feel good. And, that makes me feel like I'm moving forward in my comic journey and getting better as a writer, which I think you are. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I was impressed by Slowpokes. So Slowpokes, I've read both Slowpokes that have come out. The concept, of course, tickled me. I think it is a concept that I think I've seen you mention that a few people were upset by the concept in terms of like, sloths aren't dangerous. How dare you demonize sloths? They're adorable and vegan or I don't know. Like they would never harm a fly, but that's the point. That's why it's fun. That's why it's funny, is like they're the last animal you would make a horror comic out of, just about. And I mean, you have to read the comic to see how he does it, but he does it. And in fact, he's doing it as a series. I'm assuming so. I've read 1 and 2. I know your Foulmouth is one we're going to be focused on here today in just a bit, but there is more Slowpokes to come. Obviously, the second one.
There's more Slowpokes to come. For me as a writer, I just want to keep challenging myself and doing other things. And with each project, be like, okay, what's the challenge for this one? So Slowpokes is my first comic. I did that in my comics experience class with Andy Schmidt and Paul Aller, who Paul Aller is currently on TMNT versus Street Fighter right now, which is pretty cool. But they were my teachers, and I always thought with comics that it was tough to break in, because you always see art schools, you always see people who can draw, you can always see that, but you never see like, hey, here's a writing school. Here's something where you can do this without learning how to draw, because I can't draw for anything. And I feel like that's a lot of comic creators' origin stories. Like I put pen to paper, didn't work out, so I had to try another way in. So comics experience was a great tool for new creators or writers or anything. So I always wanted to do it. It was in my head. And with Slowpokes, I was like, oh, I always love those sci-fi movies where it's like Mansquito or Sharknado, all those things. So I was like, well, what else can they do? Like sloths that become fast. And I was like, well, that'd be a good sci-fi horror movie. And just messing around in my class, I was like, this would be a great thing. So I did it for the class. They liked it. The class liked it. And after the class was over, they were like, hey, you got this done. Do you want to make this into a full-fledged comic? I was like, sure. The script is done. I've never done something like this before. Why not? Like if anything, it'll just be a cool thing that I could just be like, hey, I made a comic, whatever it is. So I was like, you know what, maybe I'll put it on Kickstarter. So I put it on Kickstarter. thinking that, friends and family would buy it. Like, I didn't think anybody would want it. And the goal was $2,000 at the time just to get some of my money back. And then it made close to 10. And I was like, maybe, and this is before people even read it.
I didn't remember that, but I mean, obviously I was paying attention to it at the time, but it's been a little while, but
So it made close to 10. I mean, in total of after the Kickstarter, 2 people were hitting me up for it. And I was very like, well, I'm going to keep doing this. And any money that I make from comics will go towards my next project. So that helped fund Zombie Date Night, which is why I was able to do like 32 pages instead of just 20. And here we are, with Foul Mouth, and the other comic, the Christmas comic called Ex Machina. So it's supposed to be like a play on Ex Machina because it's Santa fighting robots, that come to life. Foul Mouth.
One more time, let's mention the name of the class, because I'm sure there's some creators.
Comics Experience. You can reach out to them. They have their own website. They're very, very, very positive, very forward moving, and it's just a very fun time. Even if you are not trying to make a career of this or anything like that, you just want to see how comics are written. This is a good class. It's a good writing tool. And once I found out how to do it, it just was like the floodgates were open. Like I was like, I'm ready to go. I can do this.
Comics Experience and CEX, which is their publishing banner. It is. I've said this on a couple previous. So Dallas didn't remember this because this has been my obsession this past year is CEX. But they are just about Stud and the Bloodblade, Dallas. That was them when they put that out. And that one of our first early episodes, I brought Stud and the Bloodblade on because I was just like, this is my favorite comic of 2022. Yeah. This is insane. This is amazing. And I've been buying almost everything they've been putting out. I think they're my favorite new publisher that hit the scene as of last year into this year. So yeah, and we interviewed Frank Martin, who took their class as well. And then got some of the details as to like how the classes worked and how that leads into being able to because I know when you take classes by them, the door is open for you to pitch to them.
Yes.
Is that something you're considering in the future? Or, I mean, right now you seem to be doing pretty damn good on the Kickstarter. Yeah. So what are your thoughts in that?
I've talked to Andy and Paul, and they keep encouraging me like, hey, like this should be in comic shops, pitch it and it'll probably work out, like it'll probably go through. But I'm very much, I think on my comic journey, I want to just do it myself at this point. Maybe down the line I will. They run a great program. They're great guys. They're trustworthy. But I think I just want to see where it goes. I think if I could try to do it myself, I'll do it myself and see where it takes me. It's so much fun just creating comics and bagging and boarding them up and packing them up and seeing where they go. Seeing that my comics can go to places I've never been. That to me is,
that's a great attitude, Ed. Yeah. The shipping is usually the one thing that everyone bemoans.
Yeah. It's
like
love
the one thing they're not happy with.
I love it. I mean, because how often can you do comics and they're going to Australia or like Singapore? Like,
all right, Steve. When my comic is done, I'm gonna you're doing the shipping.
I'm gonna be shipping them off. Yeah, that's right. I'm gonna be with a smile, with a little kiss. I'll just send them out.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's at least right now the process is not so overwhelming. It's just little by little. Like that's why with the Kickstarters, you do different tiers. So like the first tier is like digital, that's easy, that goes out quickly. Then the physicals is quickly, that's quickly. Then signing. I just do it little by little, make sure it's manageable, and by the time you do it a little bit every day or every week, you'll get it done pretty quickly.
Yeah. Awesome. So Foul Mouth, first off, where did the idea, if there is a story behind where the idea came from, where did the idea come from?
So it was a mixture of two things. So like the first thing was the story, I was taking a walk during the pandemic, Zombie Date Night went out. I was happy with that, but I was like, all right, what's the next thing? I can't just keep doing horror stuff. I love horror. I will plan to return to horror, but I want to do something different. What's something I can do that nobody else can do? So I was like, what can't DC or Marvel do? And I was like, well, cursing. I think there's something funny with that. And so I was like, well, I can't just have a comic of just pure curses, because that's not funny or anything like that. So I just started thinking more about things that I love. And I'm a big Green Lantern guy, and I'm a big Venom guy. And I was like, you know what? What if they did a superhero that gets her powers from cursing? Because you could make the curses The more creative the
You
curses,
like the Green
more,
Lantern ring shapes.
yes,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
more,
yeah,
the more
yeah,
it can
yeah.
animate. I was like, that I don't think has been done before.
Yeah.
And that I think is kind of funny because visually that'd be interesting. Because if somebody calls somebody like a shit sandwich, the shit sandwich could appear and help them, fight. And I'm like, that's it. And that's right up my alley. That seems like my voice. So I ran home and I was like, I think I'm going to do this. This works.
That's great.
Awesome.
And then the second thing on top of that was while I was doing that, I took a comic class with a creator, very big, well-known creator. I'm not going to say who it is because I'm not trying to start any crap. But I asked them, I was like, what, I do horror comics. They've done good for me. What advice would you have for somebody who wants to switch genres? And they told me to stay in my lane.
Whoa.
Yeah. But I don't think they meant it mean. I think they meant you're doing a good job. Keep doing what you're doing.
Right.
But
don't get disappointed by doing something different.
Exactly.
Okay.
I don't think they meant it to be mean.
That is sound career advice from someone who's entrenched in the industry.
Yes.
Right.
But,
and like 9 out of 10 times, it tends to be a little true.
Yeah, absolutely.
But at the same time, pigeonholing is like, you got to fight it. You got to fight it.
You got to fight it. And for me, I was like, I like a challenge and I want to do something different. And I want to be known. I want to make sure that when people see my comics, when they come out, they're like, oh man, he's a writer. It's not just, oh, it's another horror thing. It's another this. It's like, oh, what is this? I want to be on that ride with him. So that's why I went that way.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
And when it came to writing Foul Mouth, so your writing process was something like this. I will say, I mentioned earlier, I think this is your best work yet.
Thank you.
And definitely from a scripting standpoint, like I always loved in the Slowpoke comics, it's a great concept. There's weirdly a lot going on in the story, even though it's a straightforward, almost joke kind of a concept. But at the same time, it is like, it's not, you wouldn't call it plot heavy.
No.
Right. Or
you could say it compared to my other stuff. I think Slowpokes is a great entrance point, but I would not say that it is the best of my comics at the moment. Because I love Slowpokes. Slowpokes is a great concept, but it was also part of a class. My thought process was not, I'm going to make this a series. I'm going to do anything with this. This is just to make people laugh and just enjoy it, as opposed to like Slowpokes 2, where I'm like, all right, I'm continuing this story, but I want to make it better and make it more tight and make it more, not rushing into 20 pages. Have fun with it, have fun with the characters. So I would agree with you too. Like, as long as I keep getting better as I keep going, that's all I care about.
Beautiful. Well, and Foul Mouth was because yeah. And when it comes to things like superhero comics, we were talking about this a little bit off camera before we started recording, but we were talking a little bit about superhero comics, and it's kind of all been done before. We've all read we've read so many superhero comics. So what else can be done? But not only is the concept good here, but one thing that I always find when I think about writing a superhero comic or think about reading one by someone who's like, say, a close friend or something, so I have to give feedback and whatnot, and I'm like, ooh, okay, I hope this is good. And so when I wade into reading it, I always worry that it's going to be by the numbers. It's going to hit those beats, because especially if it's like a first issue, because it's like there's only yay many ways you can start a fucking superhero story. And so to make that something interesting and something where I think the thing that impressed me about Foul Mouth is this is a good thing, I noticed how good the writing was. So it's not that I noticed the writing in terms of like the writing was trying to manipulate me, but I noticed the writing in terms of like I would go some pages and I'm like, this is paced really fucking well. Like this is just like going from one page.
I really do. I've never listened. I hear certain, I hear people like, oh, they entertain or anything like that, but nobody's gone like that. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Good. I mean, I think this is the one where you jumped your own bar that was previously set by your other comics. Where
I don't know how big that bar is when it's like fast killer slots, grandmas who have Ancletas fighting zombies, Santa fighting robots. I keep the bar where it's a nice surprise every now and then.
Well, like you said, you get a lot of it's entertaining, right, from the previous work, but I do think that was the point and purpose of those works. And while I definitely was also impressed by Slowpokes 2 in terms of like how you continued it and where you took it. And I'm like, oh, he's getting a little more serious. Look at this. You know, it's like, this is unexpected. Like, you almost expected Slowpokes 2 to be just another totally disassociated story about the killer sloths, but it's like, this is just another one shot kind of a thing. And like, no, you're like, let's actually start building on the first issue and like going from there. But Foulmouth, I think, because it is so much more, and it's interesting though, because it is still kind of joke. It's on a foundation of a joke idea, but nevertheless, what you built on top of that is just this very likable yet flawed character, main character. You know, which is never the easiest dance to do in the first place. You're keeping the whimsy, you're keeping the lightheartedness of your previous work, while also telling a very thorough, true superhero origin story. We were like, no, but this is a superhero story for real, not just a joke. Like, for real, we're creating this world, we're creating this universe. You're creating a universe where other superheroes exist also. Your Foulmouth herself is a kind of origin story that, you know, if you strip it down to its bare bones, yes, it's a story we've seen before, but just the way you put it together and the dialogue, the pacing, the fact that it's all in this one issue. And I don't know, there was something about it where I'm like, I have not recently seen a superhero story done as well as this. And I'm happy to, I hope I don't have a superhero person tomorrow that I'm recording with. Exactly. I'm like, I don't want to follow this up with another superhero comic because
I will say,
I can't say that again.
and I'll say this to add to that. I think the glory of this work is that you've taken something, a power that's so pedestrian. It is a pedestrian sort of power, and turned it into an actual superpower. One that people sort of, when you're reading it, you're just like, yeah, that's the superpower I'd like to have, because that's the one that comes the most naturally to me. Right. You know, like, you know, it's a low bar, but you've managed to execute it really, really well. And
thank you. I appreciate that.
You know, you've created, I think, a new and interesting superhero here for sure.
I'll take it. That to me, you know, actually getting you guys to be the first readers and to tell me this, it makes me feel confident in what I'm doing, and it makes me feel like, all right, maybe I got something here, because you know, this Kickstarter has been tougher. It's not the horror stuff, and horror stuff I feel like is selling really well right now. And luckily we're at the halfway point. We still got a little bit under a month to go. I think that there's still time.
Okay.
But in the beginning, this one is like, I'm like, this one might not get funded. I was like, I'm not sure if people are finding this. And also, I feel like you lucked out on your first one a little too much. And you didn't realize this is the normal curve of a Kickstarter funding. It's like, I think you just got to get used to some comics. It's like, if you're already at halfway and you still have a month to go, it's like, you're safe. You're good, man. Don't worry about it. It's like, this is, but I get it. You made $10,000 on a $2,000 comic. I was like, I'm like, everybody just loves comics around here. This is great. And it's like, yes, but also no. Yes, also not quite that much. Yeah. But yes, I appreciate that. I myself don't have a foul mouth. Like, I think I do like to curse, but I don't curse as much as other people do. Yeah. But I think when you do curse in when you're talking, it gives power to language. And with foul mouth, I'm like, you know, this girl's quiet. You know, she's getting talked over. She's getting mansplained. So she's finding her own voice. She wants to speak out and tell everybody to fuck off. And I think everybody could kind of relate to that.
I think that's the key too. The idea that the character literally is getting her own voice
by telling people.
It is sort of specifically that she's finding her voice, and you found a way to kind of exemplify that in a really direct. Again, I keep using the word. I hope it's not a negative connotation, but in a really pedestrian, or I should adjust that, accessible. Really accessible. I got to flip through the pages. A really accessible way. And I do think this character, once it does find its audience, it's going to catch on, because she really is a character that is finding your own voice, literally and figuratively. And that voice isn't always PG. It's not always the nice girl.
But what life isn't, you know what I mean? Like, and
Precisely.
I know when they do the curse words in Marvel, they bleep it out, but it's like, why? It doesn't matter. You know what it is. You know what I mean? Like, if you only hid 2 letters.
Convention, like pure convention and etiquette, which are social constructs that we can choose. I mean, we've come a long way, obviously, from like, say, I don't know, 50 years. I mean, obviously, every 10 years, it gets a little loosier goosier.
Yes. Yeah.
Even in like professional settings, people are starting to be like, all right, we all curse in life. It's fine.
Yeah.
You know, like, we're not going to go to town. We still have to have some professional manner. But like, if someone is talking about something and drops an S-bomb or a F-bomb here or there, like, it's not the end of the world. Not everyone, no one gasps anymore, you know, when it happens in real life. So we're getting there. But actually, that's a curious question. On the Kickstarter page, are there any images that you like can't show or held back on in terms of like worrying about if that was too not safe for work?
So, there was only one that I was like, I probably can't show this. Sorry, my cat is trying to
no worries
here. But he's like, my cat likes to curse too.
I'm pretty sure I know which one it is, but yes.
But yeah, there's a part where she says "cock'em sock'em robots" and they appear, and I'm like, they probably can't do that one. But like, you know, everything else, I thought maybe Kickstarter might say something about it, but they never did. So I left like the F-bombs and things like that on there. And so far, so good. But I also think
I will say if you ever want to put the Cock'em Sock'em robots on there, or in a future one or something, we did interview Richard Fairgray recently, and he did say that he had the record of the most dicks on a cover.
That's true. That's very true.
Which is 26 dicks on an alternate cover, and he put it on the page, and they said they didn't say anything.
You heard it here first, folks. Steve Urena's going to try and beat the dick record.
Just to give you, like, here's some
rope.
It will
literally be a dick measuring contest.
There you go.
Fantastic.
Oh my gosh!
But yeah, luckily they've been pretty cool. Like, but I do laugh because you know, with Slowpokes, I got like Project We Love, Zombie Date Night Project We Love, Ex Machina Project We Love. This one I was like, I hope, because I know there's other great stuff going on right now. I was like, can you give me at least the badge that says Kickstarter we don't love? Because that's what I would love. I would love
there you go. We unrecommend.
Yes.
Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you. Like, we have to maybe promote this. I don't know. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been great writing that character. It's also funny because I loosely based Foulmouth on my girlfriend a little bit. She's a preschool teacher, and she's the sweetest person ever at school. But when she comes home, she likes to curse a lot. So I sent the character stuff to Sarah Davidson, the artist, and I vaguely made it kind of like her. And then they drew it. She drew it, and it looked exactly like her. I was like, oh man, this is crazy. I'm guessing this is out of love, and let's go. Let's do this.
Awesome.
Good job.
Yeah. I think if you have a day job like that, you just keep it bottled in too much, you know, and then you come home and you're like, oh, thank God. Yes. I can let it out at this point.
Exactly.
But yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
We're at a loss. We're at that meet cute stage. But yeah, just cursing. Like, I mean, even when kids, like little cousins and things like that, they'll go into the corner and be like, "Fuck!" You know, like I think everybody can relate.
Yes. You know, it's interesting that this is the one that, at least so far, has been quote unquote struggling, at least in comparison to how good you've had it.
Yeah, I really have. Yeah, you can only go downward from here.
There you go. So maybe it's a little bit of that. We interviewed someone just recently as well who was talking about how, you know, he's usually a very meticulous writer, and there was one comic that he and the artist would just sort of like almost round robin jam fest on, and it was not meant to be a serious comic at all. And they just did one issue, and it sold so fucking well that they immediately had to start making a series out of it. And they're like, oh, shit.
We got something here, yeah.
Right. It's like, okay. But it's like it was that, like, as a creative process, it was easy and laid back and relaxed, and just like just spitballing and shooting, just like throw stuff out there. But then the things that are like, this is craft. This is like, this took blood, sweat, and tears. And then you're like pulling people in to like pay attention to it. So it's like, I feel like this is maybe a part of creativity and just general audiences, where it's like, there's so much out there. Our attention is shit and we can't focus on things very well. So, and everything's calling it like, on social media, which is where you have to advertise these kinds of things. It's hard to pay attention to something that isn't. Now, I do think Foul Mouth at least does have a pitch, though, that is as interesting as Slowpokes. So it's like, I am a little surprised that it's not taking off. But then again, I mean, we'll see how it goes. But I'm like, I feel like that pitch just needs to find
it needs to find its audience. Like horror is easy because it's just like, if you see blood, you're like, okay, I'll check this out. But with superheroes, I know, and a lot of times on Kickstarter, you'll see the bootleg superheroes, right? You'll see like, this is my Superman comic, this is my Captain America comic, this is my this. And that I feel like can turn people off as well. So I'm sure maybe seeing the art style being like, oh, a girl superhero that gives middle fingers, like, pass. I mean, you never know. But I do agree that I think this will find its audience at some point. I don't know when, hopefully soon. But I think the concept is there, and I think it could work. So I'm still doing these shows, doing the interviews and seeing where it is. But also I think social media is just kind of fucked right now. Like everything is just so
we're in a bad spot. We're in a bad patch.
Yes. It's a very bad patch. Like I used to get so much more engagement on Twitter and other places. And now it's just I feel like I'm shouting into the void because people who do see it are like, oh, this is great. But then the people are moving away from Twitter. People are on different things like the Blue Sky app, which is cool. But I still feel like we're not at that stage. We're not at the next evolution of social media just yet. It's kind of regressing. So,
and people haven't settled into it. Blue Sky, especially because you need an invite to get on there. Yes. Only a curated select few are there. So it's a little. Blue Sky, I think, will be good once they open up to the broader public. But right now, it's like you are just preaching to the choir. Exactly. So,
like even that, like I was excited for Threads because I was like, at least Instagram is a bigger thing,
right?
But Threads, it's like how are you talking to people? You can't use hashtags, you can't use anything, so there's no way to find people. It's just you're again shouting into the void.
You can't even share shit that's on Instagram,
and
move it to Threads, and I'm like, guys, that is
right there.
The fundamental thing you needed to do. You're the Instagram version of Twitter. How is there no connection between my damn Instagram account and my Threads account? It's like,
but
yeah.
I mean, if I got to go door to door, I'll go to door to sell these comics.
I mean, I feel like it will work itself out, but it will, like, wherever the next great place where we all like to be and then actually interact and all that fun stuff.
And I will say this, I will add this. I think the origin story in terms of the Kickstarter may not get the engagement. That's it's just, I think it's because of the character. The character's already cool out of the gate. Like it's a wonderfully accessible character. We want to be that character. The origin story, I think, you may revisit it in the future as this sort of builds and, gets legs, because I do see, as we stated earlier, that, once this does find that core audience, it's just, and once you start building the world out and letting her just run and letting this world run. I think it's just naturally going to have some of that inertia and that magnetism, and that the origin story probably, there's that's all. More wine. Go on.
More wine. I'll drink more wine.
Get those. I mean, it's hard because there are all images that could get you in trouble or could get rejected from whatever platform you're putting them on. But things like the Cock'em Sock'em robots, things like some of the longer stream of shit monsters, I think was one where she had that long stream, like things. I think moments like that, because when I saw Foul Mouth and it's like cursing gives her powers, I liked the idea. I thought she would just curse and get super strong or something. So it's like she would be empowered, and the more she cursed, the more power she got. So she would be incentivized to just curse nonstop all the time, kind of a thing. the as you mentioned, kind of Green Lantern-esque version of that power where they're embodied visually. One, that's great for comics, so that was brilliant. But I think if you can safely find a way to share that might be a way to get the right audience. But then again, this is so foul in that way that it could be a more limited audience, like the people who are willing to dig that, versus those who are like, I don't want a comic that has all that in it.
So I'm gonna make okay. Steve.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I also think, just based on my other comics and like what I've done before, that maybe there's no depth to it, where it's just like, oh, this is just cursing. That's it.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Right.
But again, it's an origin story.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. There's more to it. There is like this one out of all. Not that Slowpokes didn't. But that second issue was always impressive with how you developed that story and those characters and decided to turn it into a real story. But nevertheless, Foulmouth is. So did you have, when you wrote this, compared to writing Slowpokes and Zombie Date Night and things like that, was this harder for you, easier for you? Like, how did you find the process on this one?
I think, so my writing process, I would say, so in comics, like I don't care about getting to Marvel or DC. If I do, great, you know what I mean? Or anything like that, great. I'm happy to listen, happy to take a look. My goal in this is just to have fun. This is my vacation spot. This is my place where I'm like, I'm going to follow my muse. I don't care where it leads me. If I have an idea that's something that I can get excited about, then that's where I have to go. That's where it could be an idea that completely is unrelated to horror, unrelated to comics. We completely something different. I got to follow it. I got to see where it is, and I got to make it happen. So Foulmouth, I think it was easier process than some of the other ones, because once I had the cursing superhero thing, I was like, okay, this is where I'll take this. This is where it goes. That kind of fell into place. Like all the pieces kind of went into it. So I think it was definitely easier than Zombie Day Night. Slowpokes 2 was easier too. It's just, I feel like it's just following these ideas that make you excited. And once you're excited, you can't stop. You just want to keep revisiting, keep typing, keep plugging away. I mean, even the writing process, luckily that I was taught at Comics Experience, where it's like you have an idea, you make character sheets, you focus on the characters, and you give yourself deadlines. So let's say every 5 days, it's like, okay, I'm gonna get it done by here. And my girlfriend would help me too. She'd be like, all right, I'm gonna read this, and then we'll work together. And she helps me edit them. So it's been a very great process of just working with her. Comics Experience has given me access to their artists. So they're, I'll pay them, and they'll be like, all right, we have this artist that I think would work, this artist that I think would work, people who are not well known, people that are extremely talented, just waiting for their big break. And that to me is cool. Like that to me is just like, I think I want to be a one-man show in terms of like, I don't need to worry about anything else. Just like making sure that the project gets made at the best it could possibly be.
So Steve, real quick.
Yeah.
I'm going to offer some unsolicited, not advice. It's not advice. It is wine-fueled babbling.
Okay.
I think you're in the territory here where you have the ability to kind of, like, as you said, do what you want, be a one-man show, be your own sort of studio around this idea, and allow it to blossom in its own organic way. And more than any other comic I've ever come across, in the last few years at least, I think you may want to consider doing your own little brand of audio comic.
Okay.
Particularly because of the cursing element and how heavily this comic depends on language and visual language. Now, again,
I think there's something there. I did think about, because with the Christmas one, I thought there would be a good thing to do audio where you have like you do a Santa
storybook, Christmas. Yeah. Right before Christmas kind of a thing.
This would work too, because you could have, audiobooks are big. I'm a big audiobook guy. I love them. I used to do radio. So
you've got all the tools.
Yes, I'm all for it. It's just finding voices, but I think it could be done, because I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right about that.
I
maybe
think
one of the future issue Kickstarters, that'll be one of the big expensive tiers that people can jump in on. You can give like a little sample, and then people can.
I actually
yeah.
think based on what you guys are saying is that would be a fun if the second one. So you know how they had the talkies back in the day with like Superman and Batman. You do a foul mouth one where this guy says "fuck you."
That's precisely it. That's what came to mind.
Yeah, I think you got something there.
That's what came to mind because I there aren't really many comics doing that anymore.
No, that'd be incredible.
It's another dimension.
Foul mouth. Like,
you hire, find a good Foley artist and you get a good script and make sure,
the noises and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, that's what came to mind as I was reading this.
I think that's an excellent idea.
And you got to come up with the noises when she does say something nasty, and then the visual comes up. Like, what does that sound like when it comes into being? And that'll be some fun.
or because I'm cheap, I'll just do it myself, and I'm doing all
that's how the comics started. Why wouldn't it?
Cutting it,
that's how the comics started. Yeah, I think it adds another dimension to this, which, as you said, you want to keep it close to the hip. You want it to sort of blossom, as organically as possible. So,
of course,
Anyway.
I'm a sucker for like theme songs when they do it, and things like that. Like whenever they do an audio something on a Kickstarter, it's always I either go in or it's very tempting, even if I don't. It's usually because it's usually the unexpected piece where you're getting something that's a comic and you're like, there's no audio anything to go with this. A novel's different. You always expect an audiobook to go with a novel. Like that's kind of okay.
The foul mouth ringtone.
There you go.
Answer
Who the fuck is this? Answer your fucking phone, bitch.
That's it. That's the ringtone.
Exactly. What the fuck do you want again?
There you go. Anyway. All the possibilities, my man.
Exactly. There's plenty to do. And as you were talking about before with like the F-bombs, I mean, with Oppenheimer come out, you could do a story where Foulmouth drops an F-bomb and wipes out half the world. That then turns serious.
I think the aural, AURAL, the audio sort of world for this, I think it's kind of new territory.
Yeah.
So I would say, put some effort into that because I think you got something there for sure.
I agree. I think you're right. Yeah. That's not babbling. That's a good idea.
Oh, thank you. I mean, they usually are.
You're like, I'm not even drinking wine.
Shower, exactly. It's like shower thoughts. It's like they are usually good ideas if you can remember them, if you ever get around to them, so on and so forth. But they are usually good ideas, one way or the other. All right, so Dallas.
Hold on 1 second.
Yeah. Uh-oh. No. Way too late.
I know. I just wanted to do
Yeah.
What have you done? This is all done.
So there was an episode. I told you this at the
episode.
So long before you got here, Dallas. I even told Steve. Steve got on here, and I was like, I'm just hitting record now because this is a thing. I'm bad at it, so it just needs to be recording, or I will forget, and it will be a problem. It actually has been 2 episodes. So the second time though I was able to edit the first one, it hasn't dropped yet. It's one because I mentioned to you also, Steve, that we're dropping them in weirdly reverse order that we're filming them in. But when it does, I'm actually keeping it in because it was hysterical. It's like it actually works really well. I'm like, we're starting with the guest is just talking, and then he sees me just like drop my head, and then recording started comes up, and he starts talking slow. Are we what? And then everything, and I'm just like head on the ground, and then everyone starts laughing, and I'm like, you know what? That's where the show starts because that is great, and we're just gonna do that. We're gonna keep it, but I think we're at the point now. Dallas, you want to start us off this time? What did you pair with Foulmouth?
So, what was my sort of rubric going into that picking a wine here? I generally default to sort of complementary wines, and this story was very crisp for me. It was very, the treatment of the character, I should say. Like we said, the sort of the origin story format itself can feel a little one-dimensional in general. A little trite, but the potential for this character is really, I think, astronomical. Honestly, I will give you that. It's got cinematic possibilities. Like I see this character being, you know, in film and television, and just being a multi-dimensional sort of character. You know, often comic characters can be a little one-dimensional. They can be a little great on the page, but it's really difficult to imagine them adapted for the screen and to, you know, sort of having life. And because it is so crisp, I decided to go with one of my, I'm not going to say least favorite varietals, but it is a varietal that you know, it's I got to really be in the mood for it. But when I do find one that just sings, I can down the entire bottle in one sitting. And that is essentially Northern Italian whites, for a region at least. This is a Pacher Kerner, which is akin to the Riesling. The grape is Pacher technically, I think. It is made in the Dolomite range. In terms of notes, we got, it's crisp. It's, you know, again, it's very sort of similar to the Riesling. It's got aromas of peach and apple and pear and citrus. There's some stone in there, that minerality you find with this class of wine.
Crisp fruit salad.
It is, yeah. It's a crisp fruit salad, and that's kind of the world I think you've built with this piece. It is a crisp fruit salad with some real bitter points in there that just slap you in the fucking face, and you know, with the cursing element. So yeah, I went with the Kerner Pacher 2022.
Bravo.
Very nice. Very nice.
I'll take it.
I went a fairly opposite direction on that, so this is going to be fun. But I went, so, you know, when I was, not only did I already know some of Steve's voice from the Slowpokes and whatnot, but then when I started reading, so my brain was already kind of on this, so I might be slightly biased, but my brain was already on this route, thinking like, oh, I know Steve's writing style. I think it'll be something like this. I thought I would go with a lighter version of this, but then Foulmouth was, and it's dessert wine. So I went the dessert wine route. Okay. And I really wanted something like not just sweet, but also higher in alcohol content. I thought that was kind of fucking important.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? None of this 12 to 13% ABV crap. Like, this needs to be 18 to 20 or higher percent. Yeah. It needs to be something that, like, you're having a good time by the time the comic's over. Yeah. And that's just going to be like one glass and you're already feeling it. So I wanted something of that nature. And then I realized, you know, there is the old phrase like curse like a sailor, right?
Ooh, okay,
and so I went with a quote unquote harbor style wine, which is a port style wine. It's non-vintage, so it's that thing where they're aging a big chunk of red wine in. Not only is it fortified with brandy to give it that extra alcoholic kick, it is then aged in whiskey barrels to give it that extra kick on the flavor as well, to give it something. And then it's basically the kind of thing, the reason it's a harbor style, it's going to be that kind of thing that would be just in a barrel at the harbor. Yeah. You would pour it right out of that barrel into as the people would come in and out. And as some of it gets drunk, you pour the new stuff just in with the old stuff, and you just keep aging it. And you just keep aging it. And it never empties entirely. So it's always this mixture of young and old, all aging together. And I had this Michigan dessert wine. It's called Harbor of Alpena. Alpena being a place up in Michigan. And this is a harbor style. It is fortified with brandy. It is aged in whiskey barrels. It is, you can see here, as best as you can see, it's red with a nice brownish tint from that whiskey barrel aging.
Garnet. It's deep garnet.
It's deep, but it is also very sweet. Oh, well,
tip it to the rim. Let me see the legs on the glass. That's what you got. Okay. All right. Oh,
kind of see it as it swirls a little bit as best you can. And my hand's not real. My hand is white, but not that white. Unfortunately, it doesn't actually help. "Quote unquote" white. But this is the kind of thing where it's like, it's got the whiskey flavor, it's got the brandy flavor, it's got the port flavor and the wine flavor. it's got all of those wonderful things in it that I was just like, yeah, not only am I feeling this fast, I'm enjoying myself. It's got some depth, it's got some complexity to it, but it's mostly just a good time. And when it comes to a comic that's all about cursing and seeing what that cursing leads to, especially visually, and the fun that is, this is what I drank while I read it. I was just like, I had an idea this was right. I didn't try any other because I drank this while reading it the first time, and I'm just like, done deal. This is spot fucking on. So this was my all-time favorite thing. Really, any kind of port style, port style will do. Technically, you're not a port if you're not officially from Portugal.
That's right.
But port style, as they say, if you're made here in the States, or harbor style. If you're from Michigan and you're near water, you can just call it the harbor style. But yeah, this is my Curse Like a Sailor wine, and nice. This is definitely what I thought Foulmouth went best with, and I'm enjoying it even talking about Foulmouth right here. So there you go.
Thank you. I gotta say, this is a first time anything that I've ever written has been compared to wine, which is real and awesome. And you guys are this is great.
I'm glad you enjoy it. Believe me, it's the first time for most people that are coming on the show.
Yes, that's very true. I think that's half of the interest.
No other asshole decided to do this. So for a little while, we may be the only game in town. Next time you cycle back for Foulmouth number 2, Slowpokes number 3, whatever else you got cooking up, which we might actually get to here in a minute. But first, before we get to that, you brought a book as well.
Yes,
you wanted to showcase. This is a book that Steve is either enjoying, loves, is currently obsessed with, something of that nature. Steve, what do you got?
I got Fogline by Mario Candelaria. It's a great comic. Kim comes from Kickstarter, which of course there's a lot of great projects out there. The campaign is already over, so Dave was telling me that it's harder to find, so I'll have to talk to Mario to see where we can get it. But
we'll see if we can get a link of somewhere where you guys can purchase this, either digitally or at least digitally, if not also physical.
I'm sure he has digital somewhere. But it's about a man who killed a woman long time ago, and he buried her, and he thought that nobody was able to find out about his crime until somebody makes a podcast similar to like Serial and uncovers it. So for me, just the tension, the concept is so good. The art is great. Everything works in this, and it's a shorter comic, but I like that it's done in this style, not the small style. It makes it stand out. Just everything works on. It's a self-contained story, but I just think that would be so. I feel the anxiety just from that from that character. He thinks everything. He thinks he's in the clear, and then his son is listening to this, or his grandson is listening to this this podcast, and they're talking about the woman he murdered, and he's like, "Oh shit, what do they know? What don't they know? Am I going to get found out?" So, I definitely recommend it. It's a great comic, and I'll try to get the link for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And it will be below this video. If and when we get that, we'll update it. If it's not there today, if you're watching this, say the day it drops, we'll get it as soon as we get it, and make sure we add it to the descriptions. Take a look there. And did you pair it with your tequila, or?
I think I would put it with my tequila because it hits hard, and just from the huffing and puffing of all the anxiety, put some hair on your chest. So we're good to go.
Nice.
Absolutely. And that's what you're going to want to be drinking if you were as anxious as the main character in that comic. Exactly. Is the sound of it is, don't sip some wine. That ain't going to do it for you.
Can confirm. Tequila and mezcal definitely help with anxiety.
Yes. Oh, all right. There you go. Well, then we got to tell this main character. It's like, hey, relax. Don't worry. You're not going to get down.
Right. Drink this. Don't do anything. Just go to sleep. You're good. Pass out or go to sleep, whatever you call it. And so Foulmouth is going on right now.
Yeah. What's up
you will find a link to that Kickstarter down below. But also wanted to ask, what are your plans for the future as far as you know today?
So far, just trying to get this funded. So that's the first thing. I've been writing, dabbling with some new stuff, but still trying to figure it out. I will say that Zombie Date Night 2 is next. That will be my next project. The script is just about finished for that. I'm going to send it out and work on that. And then I have another project. I'm trying to go horror, but I have some other things that I'm thinking about. What's the next step? Because I feel like all these things are it's building blocks. It's like, okay,
Yes,
this is
yes.
for this, and it's all challenges. Like the Slowpokes was the first one. Zombie Date Night 2, I was like, all right, it's a longer one, but with a little bit of a different story to it. See if I don't want to just be the sloth guy, which I love, but I want to I want to make sure that I could be versatile as a writer. And then the Christmas one, I was like, I got to work with a partner, so I worked with writer Misty Graves. She did a great job on Ex Machina. I'll send to you guys. And then Foulmouth was like, all right, this is superheroes, because everybody, I mean, I guess the majority of people who are into comics was introduced by superheroes. So I thought that's a good place to go. And I feel like it'll be something different, and it's a different way in, like, and it's an opportunity to meet a new audience. But yeah, Zombie Day Night 2 is next. And then I would love to do something a little bit more serious, because I think everybody knows me as a goofball, and I am, absolutely. But I definitely want to try new things and be versatile as a writer, and be like, oh, the new Stevie Urena project is coming. I don't care what genre it is. I want to check it out. Doesn't matter what it is. I want to get to that point. So hopefully we can get there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Foulmouth is a good step in the right direction.
Thank you.
Really
This has been a great pleasure. I've already backed Foulmouth, guys. So please, if you haven't yet,
Go check it out. See if it's your thing.
We got comics, we got posters, we got t-shirts, we got a t-shirt that says "Cursing is my superpower."
Right.
All types of different things.
And just a note, guys, when you are
I might have to look at that t-shirt.
When you are checking out Foulmouth, think about the potential for this character, for this world. Like, think about that when you decide whether or not to invest your time and your money, because I think Steve's got some interesting stuff coming up with this character. Right, Steve?
That's right. Wink, wink. But for those who maybe are like, I don't know about the concept, at least look at the t-shirt. And the t-shirt says "Cursing is my superpower." There's a bumper. We have a bumper sticker. I feel like at least if you don't want to do the premise of the comic, you will at least relate to that.
There you go.
Yeah, 100%.
Beautiful, Steve.
All right. Thank you so much, Steve.
Thank you.